Assalamu alaikum. This is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum for Salam Radio and the Body Health and Mind Show on 106.2 FM. What a delight it is to be back today again within your wonderful company. And aren't I just blessed to have the first night of Ramadan with all of you. And I know a little part of me is feeling a little bit guilty because I know that many of you have gone to offer Tarawih prayers. And for those of you who are not Muslim, the Tarawih prayers are the nighttime prayers that are offered in which during the 30 days of Ramadan, it is aimed that the Holy Quran will be finished and recited during these 30 days. But it's an absolute delight to be back. And I thought that seeing that it's the beginning of the month, I should talk a little bit about a healthy Ramadan. And what better day to start than the first day. I hope you've all been keeping well. I hope you've been preparing for this. And this Ramadan hits very differently, doesn't it? It really does. I think because of the fact that we have so much turmoil going on in the world. People are going into Ramadan with, I see it around everybody that speaks to me, and in the emotions, having a look on social media platforms and through conversations, I see that there are so many people that are welcoming Ramadan with a sense of relief, using it for spiritual peace. In fact, there is such a need for spiritual peace at this time, more than any other time, I think, given the state of affairs in the world today. And it's needed. It very much is needed, and we can use this month as an opportunity for healing and forgiveness. I'd like to stress on that, forgiveness, and to pray for peace for everyone. I think that's so important because our religion teaches us peace. It teaches us good values. And why shouldn't we? Why shouldn't we be open in our hearts to pray that everybody is looked after in this month, and to wish peace and happiness on everyone, those that surround us, those that are near us, those that aren't near us. It's so important to spread positivity. And do remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens the gates of mercy during this month. We can ask him for anything. So I'd like to start that off. But before I continue on my topic, I think that it's important to remind you of the drill. And that is, you can call and text me on 01733 602 133. No doubt some of you will most certainly be embroiled in preparing for the first fast that is due to take place tomorrow. Or you can text me on 07411 191062. And I have shared the video on the live stream on Facebook. We're also available on YouTube and on X, and also that new social media platform called Twitch. I didn't know that there's a Twitch that existed, but apparently it does. So I look very forward to sharing the next hour with you on how to spend a healthy Ramadan. And we always have people from different faiths and those of no faiths that join us. And I really do. I like to share things about the Islamic faith pertinent from a health point of view with our listeners that aren't Muslim, because it's beautiful bringing communities together. And we're so proud to be living in Peterborough, which is such a diverse city, full of this tapestry of rich communities from diverse backgrounds coming together. It's certainly something that we need to be proud of and share our values and our identities and the common things that bring us together. I think that's incredibly important. So I'm really hoping that we can use this month to share and promote the values of Ramadan and what we do and why we do it. And part of that is what I'll be sharing with you in the way of health today. Well, I'm Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum. I'm actually a GP at Bretton Park Healthcare, which is a practice in the city centre. I love my job. I love speaking to patients, as many patients will attest when they speak to me. And I love treating them. I love my line of work. I always have. So I hope that you'll be able to gain something from today's programme as well. And if your children who are ready to get ready for school tomorrow, or you are a mum who is preparing for the suhoor, put this on in the background and just listen to the things that I share about how to spend a healthy Ramadan. So for those of you who aren't familiar with Ramadan, who have never practiced it before from other faiths, Ramadan is it's the 9th month of the Islamic calendar. And it's a time when many Muslims across the world fast during daylight hours for 29 to 30 days. The Islamic calendar differs from the calendar in Britain that we follow, and it's the lunar calendar, so it follows the cycles of the moon. So Ramadan falls slightly at different times every year, and it usually is anywhere between 9 to 10 days earlier every year than the previous year. And during Ramadan, the reason why it's so special is that Muslims take part in Ramadan and they fast, which means that they don't eat or drink anything during daylight hours. They eat one meal, which is known as the suhoor or the sehri, and this is just before the breaking of the dawn. And then the other meal, which is known as the iftar, which is taken at the setting of the sun or just after sunset. And then the end of Ramadan is marked by a festival called Eid al-Fitr. And that is the festival of the breaking of the fast. And a special celebratory meal is eaten during the festival of Eid, and the first daytime meal for a month. So you can see. And abstaining from food and drink is very symbolic for Muslims during the day. There is no point in starving oneself if you do not reflect upon those that are less privileged than ourselves. And that is what Islam teaches when it seeks to bring people together and it seeks to invest within the Muslim world the sense of being more fortunate than other people in parts of the world as well. It's actually one of the 5 pillars of Islam, and it is obligatory for all healthy Muslims, not children, and for them to fast and to abstain from drinking water and eating from sunrise to sunset. And there are exemptions, obviously. So for those that are pregnant or breastfeeding women, or even people with chronic health conditions in which if they aren't to take their medication, then they would actually risk losing their life. So those people who have life-threatening illnesses, the medications that they don't take, of which if they don't take, they may not survive, the fast isn't compulsory upon them at all. Now, how does fasting actually affect the body? Now, we know that as science has been more advanced over the ages, we are now aware more and more of the benefits of fasting, and there are some studies to show that fasting benefits those as a preventatory measure against dementia and also other illnesses as well. So there are studies that have shown that intermittent fasting can help with other things like regulating blood pressure, for example, or even helping with the circulation. There are studies to show that intermittent fasting can also help with losing weight. But in Ramadan, during fasting hours when no food or drink is consumed, the body uses up its stores of carbohydrates. And carbohydrates are they're stored in the liver and the muscles, and fat to provide energy. And once all the calories from foods that have been consumed during the night have been used up, The body cannot store water, and so the kidneys try their best to conserve as much water as possible by reducing the amount of water that is lost in the urine. The body cannot avoid losing some water when you go to the toilet through your skin and when you breathe and when you sweat, especially if it's warm. So those processes will still take place. But if you analyze what happens to the body when food is not consumed or drink is not consumed, there is a process, and that process is really that the body takes energy from the carbohydrates that are stored in the liver, and from there on, the water that is consumed is then stored and held by the kidney once all that urine has been extracted from the body. This obviously varies, doesn't it, depending upon which part of the world you're in, what the climate is like, how long your fasts are. We're in the Northern Hemisphere in Britain, so the fasts are considerably longer and in the summer and much shorter in the winter. And now we're seeing a phase that in March we'll see midway between having reasonable lengths of fast to longer lengths of fast too. And studies have suggested that though there are some side effects such as mild dehydration, sometimes fasting can cause headaches, it can cause tiredness and difficulty concentrating, the side effects that are experienced aren't harmful in the long term to health. And provided enough fluids are consumed after breaking the fast to replace those that are lost during the day. However, if there are a group of people that can sometimes find it difficult to mobilize because of dizziness that they're affected by as a result of dehydration, or they become disoriented, they are then advised to break the fast and drink regular, moderate quantities of water, ideally with sugar and salt. And if one faints during the dehydration, legs should always be raised above the head so that when people awake, they should urgently be rehydrated as is needed. For some of us who cannot start our day without our morning caffeine, and I put my hands up to this because I'm one of them, the lack of caffeine during the fast might lead to headaches and obvious tiredness as well. Over the course of Ramadan, the first week becomes quite difficult when we think about caffeine, non-caffeine consumption in the morning, and that eases as the next week comes over. And remember, Ramadan roughly spans about 4 weeks, and this is how the body adjusts by going without caffeine. And so your body sort of goes into a cold turkey if you're used to having caffeine, and then you notice that because you're not having it anymore early in the morning, you tend to get headaches, but that will pass as you continue to fast, so don't be put off. Once your fast is broken, the body can rehydrate and it can gain energy from foods and drink that are consumed. Having not eaten for a long period, some people find it helpful to eat slowly when breaking the fast and to start with plenty of fluids and low-fat, fluid-rich foods. And I'm going to give you some suggestions of those foods because I think it's very important. It's important when you do break your fast to drink plenty of fluids, as well as consuming fluid-rich foods such as fruit, vegetables, yogurts, soups, stews are another alternative. And it's very important to replace fluids lost during the day and to start the next day of fasting well hydrated. Salt actually stimulates thirst, so it's a good idea to avoid consuming fried and fatty foods that have a high salt content in them. And the pre-dawn meal, which is known as the suhoor, provides fluid and energy for the day of fasting ahead, so making healthy choices can help you to cope better with the fast. Again, in the second half of the show, what I think I will do is give you some suggestions of things to eat at suhoor time. So that's very important. In fact, it would be wonderful if you could write to me what you normally have for suhoor as an idea. And it's great to share, isn't it? I tend to eat oats, muesli as well. I think muesli is great. Do remember that at suhoor time, it would be wonderful to incorporate some kind of very high fiber diet, because if you're not consuming as much water as you should be throughout the day, you are at risk of developing constipation. So having anything with a high fiber content in it will only be beneficial to you. And having that high fiber at the beginning of the day is far better than having it in the evening, although having it in the evening is a bonus as well. But you might cause bloating, obviously, if you have sort of non-soluble forms of fiber. So make sure that they are soluble forms of fiber that you eat. Bran flakes are a very, very good option of having a soluble form of fiber in the morning for your suhoor meals as well. Now, it is important not to go overboard. I say this every year, and I fall foul, I must say, of this. But it's important not to go overboard when you're eating during Ramadan. Consuming a lot of deep fried, creamy and sweet foods may cause you to gain weight during Ramadan. And Ramadan can be a good time to make changes to improve the balance of your diet, and that you can sustain it in the longer term. So it's a good way to practice. And remember, Ramadan isn't just about abstaining from food and drink. It's about discipline. It is really about discipline as well. Now, I've also suggested many a time that during suhoor, it's so important to not only eat high fiber diet, but people say to me, where can we get the fiber from? And a typical thing that I normally ask them to do is oats mixed with chia seeds, and also to have sprinkle some nuts on those chia. So almonds are a wonderful source with the skin on, wonderful source of fiber as well. And some light physical activity during the day, such as going for a walk after iftar, can help digest that food. So please make sure that you're not inactive when you do start fasting, because it's very important that you maintain your activity, if anything, but get your sleep. Now, as I said earlier, lots of people ask me this question, that if fasting causes brain fog and a lack of focus, what is it that it's beneficial for? Again, it depends upon the length of the fast and which part of the world you're in the climate as well. Yes, it is possible to lose weight, but immediately it's seen that there is a trend of people putting that weight back on after Ramadan. So if you're overweight and would like to lose weight and would like to keep it off, then making plans to maintain that healthy diet and get active when Ramadan is finished may help sustain any weight loss due to fasting. And I know she won't mind me saying this, but my sister, before she got married, she was a little bit of sort of on the overweight side, so she won't mind me saying this, but she lost her weight through fasting, and she fasted during the summer months, and she did so as a means of spiritual cleanse as well, because she's somebody who's very close to her faith, and she gained a lot of sustenance from it too. She gained a lot of spiritual peace from it, and I supported her with that. But she also chose to fast sensibly, so she made sure that she wasn't indulging in over salty, over fatty or fried foods. She most certainly indulged in foods that were high in vitamins and minerals. They had a high water content and a high fiber content, and she lost considerable and significant amount of weight, and she continued to keep at that weight. So it can most certainly be done. Now, like I said, that some small studies have looked at the effect of Ramadan fasting on factors like blood cholesterol and triglycerides. and have found a short-term improvement in some cases, although there are a number of studies that have found that there's been no effect on cardiac health and on blood pressure as well. And there are some small studies that have suggested that Ramadan fasting may have a short-term beneficial effect on the immune system. But in both cases, the results of studies have been mixed. So more research definitely is needed into that. However, I have noted that those that do fast incorporate a healthy diet and a healthy way of eating. I've done their blood tests after Ramadan and noted that their cholesterol has come down significantly. And on the other end of the spectrum, I've also seen patients whose blood tests I've done who have background of diabetes, but because they haven't been particularly good in doing their or taking care of their diet, their cholesterol just simply shot up. So I think it's really important that we understand the repercussions of unhealthy eating during Ramadan as well, because it can make you feel worse and fasting will be more arduous. And I say this a lot to my diabetic patients as well, because I don't know, you might recall that myself and Dr. Azhar and a group of wonderful doctors here within Peterborough over the last couple of years have embarked upon delivering teaching on healthy Ramadan to the mosque congregations. And recently, Dr. Azhar and my colleague and friend and sister, Dr. Ruqayya Zafar, also delivered these talks on fasting and diabetes. And there is a traffic light system. So green is you are allowed to fast if you are diabetic, if you are on no medication or on one medication, and your blood sugar levels are within good or reasonable range. Then you come onto amber, which demonstrates that you must gain advice from your health professional if you fall into the category of being diabetic and taking 2 medications or more, or do not have a stable control of your diabetes and tend to become quite unwell. Advice is then sought from the health professional. And then you have a category of diabetic patients who have unstable diabetes, they're on insulin, and they want to fast, but actually it would be life-threatening for them to fast because that puts them at risk of going into either a diabetic coma or a hypoglycemic coma, which means that your sugar levels dip so low that you are at risk of having a diabetic coma as a result of that as well, a hypoglycemic, low sugar coma as a result of that. So in brief, and there's a whole show that we could do on this, by the way, but in brief, it is always good to eat sensibly. If you are on any medication whatsoever, even if you're immunosuppressed, gain advice from your GP or a health professional, and make sure that whatever advice is given to you, you can make the most out of this month, brothers and sisters, by taking care of your health, because looking after your health and looking after your body, especially during this holy month, is also an act of worship and ibadah. So it's very important that you follow this advice and put your health first. If you think that there is going to be a risk to your health that would impair your ability to fast or even impair your health, do remember that you not only inconvenience yourself, but you also inconvenience those of your family members that are well and are able to fast, but you put them out of sync with everything else. So I think it's incredibly important at this moment in time to understand that your health and your Ramadan will only be as fulfilling as you make it. So make it a good one. And if your doctor advises you not to fast, then concentrate on your good health, and make it a fulfilling Ramadan by worshipping. Because surely the reward and the number, the multiplication of reward and the blessings that come with that reward for fasting in this month are tenfold. So concentrate and focus on worshipping. And that should help you. It should help you with your mental health. Use it as an act of worship then to look after your health. It's not that difficult at all. So see that we're approaching the end now of the first half of the show. After the break, in the second half of the show, I will talk to you about looking after your mental health and examples of meals to eat during suhoor and iftar. Stay tuned.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this short ad break.
ये खुद को कोविड-19 और फ्लू से बचाने का वक्त है। अगर आप या खानदान के किसी दूसरे फर्द को इस मौसम सरमा की वैक्सीन लगनी है, तो आप अपॉइंटमेंट बुक करवा सकते हैं या ऑनलाइन वॉक इन क्लिनिक तलाश कर सकते हैं। बस कोविड और फ्लू वैक्सीन पीटरब्रा सर्च करें। अगर आपको इससे पहले भी कोविड-19 या फ्लू वैक्सीन लग चुकी है, खा एक दफा ही या इससे ज्यादा, तब भी इसे दोबारा लगाना और महफूज रहना इस वक्त जरूरी है। लिहाजा मजीद जानने के लिए बस आपको ऑनलाइन तलाश करना है कोविड और फ्लू वैक्सीन पीटरब्रा।
Attention foodies! Discover a world of flavours at Pack Foods, the largest ethnic supermarket in Peterborough. Shop our vast selection of authentic ingredients from around the globe, including spices, marinated fish and meats, and exotic fruits at incredibly low prices. And the best part? We offer free parking. No more hunting for a spot. Come visit us today and explore the incredible range of flavours at Pack Foods, 232 Lincoln Road.
Bite into something wonderfully tasty at Big Mouth, 349 Lincoln Road in Peterborough. Eating in, for takeaway or delivery, Big Mouth now have a delicious new menu full of all your favourites. Crispy fried chicken, juicy smashed burgers, finger-licking peri-peri chicken, handmade pizzas, quality doner meat and so much more. So visit the family-friendly Big Mouth restaurant for fantastically fresh food. Call 01733 201020 or visit getbigmouthonline.com.
Could you spare a few hours each month to provide support to people who are going through tough times? If so, Peterborough Samaritans are looking for volunteers who are empathetic and open-minded, and we'd love to hear from you. We run regular information sessions where you can find out more about what it means to volunteer for Samaritans. If you are at least 18 years of age and would like to know more, please email volunteer@peterboroughsamaritans.org.
Fancy the true taste of Middle Eastern Kurdish food? Asia Restaurant gives you the unique fusion of flavours from Turkey, Iraq, Syria and Iran. Eat in at 5 Fitzwilliam Street, Peterborough, PE1 2RU. Or order through Just Eat, Uber Eats or order through our website, asiarestaurant.co.uk. Call us on 01733 562 530. Asia Restaurant, the true taste of the Middle East.
Are you looking for a career where you can make a difference? At Cross Keys Homes, we work with our local communities to create opportunities that change lives. We're looking for enthusiastic, talented people to join our team, from apprenticeships to senior management positions. Cross Keys Homes can support your development while you enjoy great employee benefits. There are so many opportunities for you to shine. Apply to join the Cross Keys Homes team at crosskeyshomes.co.uk.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome back. Have you noticed a change in the tone of my voice when I greet you this time? I'm usually quite jumpy with my greetings, but do you know, this month, I think we've all been waiting for it, haven't we? With great eagerness and passion and solace, and just to take some peace and some spirituality and some healing. My goodness, yes, we've just been waiting for this month to give us some healing. And that's on the background of some very agonizing times in our world. And that's why it's important to introduce this month with a manner of calm, to introduce this month with a manner of peace. And yes, there will be times where I'll be more jumpy about and excited about introducing the Body, Health and Mind show. But for this time, I think that it's more appropriate to welcome this deeply holy and spiritual month, and how lucky we are that the Almighty has given us the fortune to see it again. We really are. So here I am with you in your company, Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum. I work as a GP at Bretton Park Healthcare in the city, and you can call us on 01733 602 133, or you can text us on 07411191062. And I have my first comment of the evening. It's Lee Taylor. Hello, Lee. It's lovely to see you and welcome you. And okay, so I can see that Lee has a comment, and I will be in touch with you, Lee. Okay. In the meantime, if you sit back and listen to the show, maybe you'll take some healing from it. I'm talking about mental health during Ramadan, but these are all tips. But I would give otherwise to anybody who doesn't observe Ramadan. So you're more than welcome to take some solace and from some peace and some healing from these tips. And Ramadan, as you know, Lee, is a time where Muslims abstain from eating and drinking for the whole month. So at that time, it can have an impact on our mental health. It usually is. It's a time of testing an individual person and the self, because you abstain from any food and drink. But it's also a time of testing of one's patience, of one's forgiveness. And as it's the holiest month in the Islamic calendar, it is often considered to be a time to cleanse the soul and body and detox the brain from all negative thoughts and behaviors. And listeners, you would have seen that I said that with an element of pause in my voice, because I meant it. And for all of you that are listening out there, I'm going to repeat those words. Ramadan is a month to cleanse the soul and the body and to detox the brain from all negative thoughts and behaviors. And often we see examples of individuals who will use various platforms to display behaviors that are quite untoward and unbecoming. Well, I've got a message for all of you out there who do so and indulge in that. This is the month to reckon with, and this is the month to come to terms and to ask for forgiveness for all that kind of behavior that anyone has been displaying. Because if you think that this month is only there to practice a cease of those behaviors, it's actually not. It's to improve the self and to continue improving the self when Ramadan is over. So a little bit about mental health during Ramadan as well. Everybody knows that in Ramadan, as a Muslim, a significant change in habits and routines takes place. And this includes fasting, prayer, studying the Quran. And you can also spend more time with family, friends and community. And it's an excellent time, a most excellent time to practice good deeds and to give to charity as well. But I do think that there is so much more to Ramadan than just charity. It's the act of wanting to give charity for a purpose and the intent behind that purpose. Because what's visible is the act. What isn't visible is the intent. And you know what the intent is when you're doing something. You know what your intent is during the month of Ramadan when you're praying. You know what the intent is during the month of Ramadan when you do good deeds or speak nicely to someone. You know what the intent is. So if the intention to give charity is to display that you're giving charity, then one would doubt your intentions. But then again, there's only the Almighty that knows your intentions. And Lee, sorry, I thought you were chatting about it in general. Sorry, I'm always listening. I do understand this time of month for the Muslim community. And you are more than welcome, Lee, to join us during this month. We want you to be able to have a shared understanding and love of this month with us. So join us. You are more than welcome to. And I'm so happy that you have joined us. You are no different. And you share it. That's the reason why we do Salam Radio, to share everything that's going on with the community, with the Muslim community, and also to share with those of our friends that aren't Muslim, that they can be a part of these celebrations too. So it's lovely that you're here. I'm telling you, it really is. And I want you to know that. So, because of the extended time that people spend with their families and friends and in spiritual reflection during the month of Ramadan, that can actually boost an individual's sense of well-being and happiness. Mental health during Ramadan is also influenced by the important things happening in our lives or changes in our circumstances. But to get the most from Ramadan, it works the other way around as well. It's important to look after one's mental health whilst they are fasting. So in order to look after your mental health for Ramadan, first of all, it's very important that you look after your physical health. Physical and mental health are very closely linked, because if you have physical health conditions that are deteriorating and make you feel less able-bodied, or you're unable to walk around or move around as much as you'd like to, that can have an effect on your mental health. And more so if you are fasting and that impairs your mobility, that can also further impair your mental health. So, in order to look after your physical well-being and physical health, eat healthily. Just let's go back to basics. Eat healthily. Eating a healthy, well-balanced diet during Ramadan is good for your physical health and both your mental health. It's important to make sure that you're eating a good balanced diet for the things that I raised before the break. Not getting constipated, not getting dehydrated, making sure that you're eating foods that have slow release energy at the morning meal time, like porridge oats. They release energy slowly. A drizzle of honey if you're not diabetic. A handful of fruits that are superfoods, chia seeds, which are a superfood, and are high in fibre and can help regulate cholesterol. These are foods that are really good for you, so do indulge in them. Drink water with electrolytes. So, for example, today what I'm going to do is make up jugs of water with lemon, a little bit of sugar and a pinch of salt. Celtic salt is really very good, or Himalayan pink salt. And consume that, because when you have electrolytes, the body tends to retain that water as a result of osmosis. So make sure that you're having plenty of water, because if you're not, then you'll become dehydrated during the day. And if you become dehydrated during the day, you'll end up having headaches, and that's not good for anybody, is it? So have a look at those elements too. And I've got, my friend David Garner. Hello, David. It's lovely to see you. Happy Ramadan to you. Ramadan Kareem, they say in Arabic, or Ramadan Mubarak, they say in Arabic too. So it's wonderful to have you on board. And you have given me my weekly joke. So let's read this out to the listeners for the benefit of the listeners. So David Garner shares his joke with me. I was showing my doctor the rash on my bottom today. He seemed pretty uncomfortable and didn't want to look at it. He just told me to make an appointment at the surgery on Monday and walked off pushing his shopping trolley with his wife. Do you know, David, that's such a funny joke. I always burst out laughing. I've read this before, and I think you've posted it actually somewhere on a social media platform, but I've read this before and it makes me laugh every single time. But I will be, honestly, I go into the shopping centre, or I go into the supermarket, and I always bump into somebody I know happens to be a patient, and I will invariably always be stopped by someone who asks me a medical question. And now my husband doesn't go with me because he says, whenever I take you, you're going to be stopped. And we're there for hours. And he hates food shopping and grocery shopping. So thank you very much for that. It's wonderful, David Garner, who's the highlight of my show every single week, who shares a witty joke. So thank you very much. Wonderful way to start Ramadan. Thank you. Now, like I said, just before I read out David's joke, that drinking and eating is very important. Obviously, you're trying to prevent dehydration and trying to prevent headaches as well. So this can be especially hard, obviously, when you're fasting as well. But you can keep track of how much you're drinking. So some people find a water bottle with measurements on it, and that can be quite good when you're having iftar time. And it can also help for you to write down how much you're drinking too. And if you're caring for someone who has an eating disorder during Ramadan, you might be interested in the eating disorder, which is known as BEATS. They have a free course, and the course is called Coping with Celebrations in Ramadan. And the good thing about them is that they offer a helpline that is open 7 days a week from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. So do give them a call, especially if you're caring for somebody who has an eating disorder during Ramadan as well. Now, I was having a conversation with a wonderful brother yesterday in our little hangout that we go to in the evening, my husband and I. And the thing that was really interesting that he told me was that he doesn't mind the not eating. He doesn't mind the not drinking. That doesn't bother him. But the thing that bothers him the most, and I agreed with, that bothers me as well, is sleep. My goodness, your sleep becomes totally compromised during the month of Ramadan. It really does. And it's so difficult sometimes waking up in the morning. First of all, you wake up for suhoor, and then waking up in the morning to have your suhoor, and then going back to sleep, and then having to wake up again, especially if you have children, because you've got to get them on the school run. So it can be incredibly difficult. And obviously you can't go to sleep that early, because when you have the evening prayers that are known as the Tarawih prayers, you sometimes finish up late. And when you finish up late, by the time you get home, you go to sleep, and the best you can do is then wake up again early, especially if you've got a large family and you've got to cook for all of them. So that's sleep really does suffer. So in the United Kingdom, where we can't change our routine of work, and where social circumstances and working circumstances don't really accommodate Ramadan, for obvious reasons as well, it's very important to be mindful of how this is going to affect your energy when you're planning your time throughout the week. So you might find it helpful to nap during the day. Well, I do say that, but it's very difficult in my line of work to have a nap during the day, or to take breaks more regularly if you're working or studying, for example. And if changing your routine means that you are struggling to sleep, there are some really good guides out there, actually, to how to sleep better. And there's a website that is called mentalhealth.org.uk. And there is a great guide on there on how to sleep better as well. In terms of looking after your mental health, it's very important that you connect with others too. Like I said, Ramadan is a time to connect with your friends, your family and community. And there are so many opportunities to get together and connect with others, whether to share meals or pray, and learn with each other. And I have a message here from Kiran Ayub, my wonderful friend and sister, who I'm so happy is on my show. Thank you very much, Kiran, and Ramadan Kareem to you as well. And indeed, she says, may Ramadan make easy for everyone who's fasting, inshallah. Ameen. No doubt. May Ramadan be easy for everybody who's fasting, inshallah. And going back on that, connecting with others can be very fulfilling. Relationships, as we all know, with those around us, can have an impact on your mental health. People who are more socially connected to family, friends, or their community are much more happier, say studies, than those who don't, and they actually live longer with fewer mental health problems than people who are less well connected. It's important to have a circle, a social circle, or people that you can talk to. And in fact, it's interesting because International Women's Day was last week, and I was invited to the wonderful Thomas Deacon Academy by my amazing sister, Sister Nadia Abdul Rahman, and I'm going to give her a shout out and dedicate this show to her because she's just so amazing. She has the most purest heart, and I want to share that with you today because I feel that the first show that I'm delivering for Ramadan should be dedicated to her. It really should be. And she's just motivating, uplifting. She's an excellent teacher. She's loved by her students. She does an immense amount of charity work. She always has, and she has never rested. She has been working throughout the lockdown and pandemic with her wonderful group of sisters besides her. In other words, we have Sister Huma, Sister Saida, Sister Jabeen, Sister Sobia, who've been helping her and others cook meals and deliver them to the poor and impoverished in our city. So I want to give her a shout out. But she's a teacher at Thomas Deacon Academy, and she invited me there to speak to the Year 12 girls. And one of the things that I said to them was, in context to what we're talking about now in terms of mental health and looking after your Ramadan mental health, is have a very close circle of friends around you. Have 2 friends that are your closest friends. Don't pick and choose. They have to be those people that are your people, that are cut from the same cloth, and that they're either side of you, and that each of you bind each other together, and that you form your own circle, and that when the chips are down, you lift each other up. And equally, when you're happy, you share that happiness with each other. So all it takes is a group of 3 people to be very well connected with each other. And use that theory in Ramadan as well. Fall back on those that are your closest confidants, because it's so important sometimes. Life can be so difficult, especially now. And actually, I've been doing a lot of reaching out to people, especially with whatever's happening in the Middle East, and both sides I've been speaking to, I must say. And I'm happy, I'm proud to say that on an Islamic radio station as a Muslim, that I know people on both sides who've been afflicted by what's happened in Gaza and in Israel as well. And talking to people and listening to them and their pain has helped them greatly. And I know of a sister that I engaged in an hour-long conversation with over last week who feels it was very therapeutic for her to talk to me about the pain that she's feeling. So talk to people. Talk to people. Give them the opportunity. Engage with them. We might not be able to change the world, but what you can do is you can offer healing to other people by simply talking to them and being there for them and listening to them and validating how they're feeling. So never underestimate the power of a good listen through an intellectual and meaningful and sympathetic ear. Now, some people often suggest that coming to the mosque is a great place where people can socialize, where you're welcome, and whether you come alone or with others, and that you can go to the mosque for prayers as well as for iftar. Now, it's good to use our mosques here within Britain as places where we bring people together and people come together. With the evolving ages and generations around us, it's important to understand that mosques are actually now not just places of worship, but they're a hive of community activity and social events that are meaningful events. They're places where charity and fundraising takes place. They're places where educational sessions take place, and they benefit people not only within the Muslim community, but those further afield as well, those of faith and no faith. So using your mosques as a space to offer an iftar to people is a great way of bringing people together and does wonders for your mental health, because it's a time of charity and giving. So I definitely would suggest that you do go to your places of worship, like your mosques, with your friends, that bunch of 2 or 3 friends that I was talking about. That's really important as well. And if you're not able to go to the mosque, the other way that you can feel connected to your community is to watch or listen to prayers and teachings on the TV or the radio, such as the Islam channel or the Voice of Islam radio. And I don't know if any of you have ever had this experience, but I'm somebody who loves my TV. It just helps me to switch off, and sometimes I am guilty of watching silly TV. And when we were little, those memories stay with me of waking up at suhoor time and my mother making a type of bread that is known as a paratha in Urdu. And she would be making it in the kitchen, and you could smell the aromas of this freshly kneaded dough with butter on it, and clarified butter, and she would put it on a flat griddle that's known as a tava, and it would fill the house with a smell of paratha. And she would make a fried egg, and in the background the television would be on, and it would be playing a qawwali, and we would listen to that and have our suhoor, me and my brother, with my mum and dad, and it was such a lovely time. And my dad would say, well, if you look out the window, you'll be able to see how many other Muslim families are awake as well. And I used to look out the window. So fond memories in childhood with my parents of celebrating Ramadan. And sometimes I reciprocate that as well. And sometimes it's good to have some television on in the background that is playing Quranic recitations or even qawwalis or nasheeds, and the recitation of opening of the fast takes place, so it officiates it. So that's the trend that we followed throughout the years, and I wonder what you followed. Has anybody got any experiences they'd like to share with me? It would be wonderful if you could in the last 3 minutes of the program. Apart from that, if you find yourself completely alone, and I know that there are people of varying ages who find themselves alone during Ramadan, especially young people who are here either working or studying away from home. Their families may be abroad and they spend Ramadan alone. There are online communities that you can join, whether that's for prayers and lessons or to connect with people during iftar. And remember, COVID has taught us so much. I remember doing iftar with my parents in London at the time, virtually, by connecting to them whilst I was sat in my house with my children and my husband. I would connect with my parents over the laptop or through Zoom by video calling them, and we would open our fast together virtually online, and they would be sitting in London and opening their fast, and we would be sitting here and opening our fast. And that's how we got through this phase of lockdown, because you'll remember that we weren't allowed to go anywhere, but it was a really testing time for everybody. So I hope that you have gained quite a bit of knowledge from this show. But however you observe your Ramadan, I hope that it's a spiritual, peaceful, healing, and happy one for you all. And that you enjoy it with your families and you make the most of it. And please, it's my request to you that be kind to others. Please do, because goodness knows the world needs so much more kindness now. And I will make dua for all of you, and I would be very grateful if you could make dua for me and my family too. So without further ado, until next time, this is your very own Dr. Shabina Asad Qayyum for the Body, Health and Mind Show. Assalamu alaikum.
Stay tuned to Salam Radio after this